The legacy media is in a full-blown panic as their slush fund seems to be getting drained. Politico, the New York Times, even the BBC, fearing that the Dogemobile may be running over them full steam ahead. It could be the utter collapse of legacy dinosaur media, and all brought to you by President Orange Man Bad. We'll tell you how much money USAID was paying out and why it may have you shouting out, "What were you doing with my tax dollars?" Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we, as ever, endeavor to explain entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It is what we do, and we have a passion, a zeal that the weirdos, the Hollyweirds, if you will, can never understand, for they feel not the camaraderie we have with our audience. Folks, all we ask from you is that you click the like button. We'll explain what's going on with USAID and why the Trump administration may have finally vanquished the legacy dinosaur media. Coming to you from KMO News, it says GOP senator sounds alarm over USAID payments to Politico. Please tell me this is a joke. Please tell me this is a joke. It's by Ray Lewis from the National News Desk. We're going to start reading this. I want to give you the quick heads up, though, folks. Here's what's going on. There's a giant department in the U.S. government called USAID. All right? Oh. And USAID, the Agency for International Development, has been sending out tons and tons and tons of money. We're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. And now what we're finding out is perhaps USAID under the Biden administration, at least, maybe it goes back way further, they may have been keeping the legacy dinosaur media alive. And they may have been self-serving themselves pretty well. We'll read it. It gets extremely messy. And the Trump administration might be actually cutting the knees out from underneath the legacy media by ending the payments. These amounts are insane. They're crazy. And we're finding out, when you wonder, how do these companies stay alive? Nobody's reading them. Nobody's watching them. Like, how do they do it? Oh, well, your tax dollars apparently were making sure that they had big newsrooms that were vibrant and just as radical as ever. Senator Mike Lee out of Utah, he's a Republican, reacted to a post on social media platform X Wednesday about Politico receiving payments from the U.S. Agency for International Development. Podcast host Benny Johnson wrote Politico was massively funded by USAID and that no workers at the news outlet received pay Tuesday. USAID is currently under scrutiny by the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, over its spending, and all direct hire workers of the agency will be placed on administrative leave Friday. Please tell me this is a joke, Lee replied to Johnson. Please, someone? Johnson also said in his post, this is the biggest scandal in news media history. And what are they talking about? Well, the suggestion that Politico was being paid millions and millions of dollars by the U.S. government in order to keep it alive and maybe to keep it in line with what the U.S. government under the Biden administration wanted legacy media to say. Take a look at this. It's from Liz Churchill. Press Secretary Levitt calls out Politico to their face. Here it is, folks. Full volume up and truth coming to you.
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOGE team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings because of that effort.
Can you imagine being the Politico reporter and finding out that millions of dollars are no longer going to your company from the government, which probably pays for your salary? Can you imagine hearing that, sitting right there in front of her? Well, the legacy media is handling this well. From CNN Business, White House says it will cancel $8 million in Politico subscriptions after a false right-wing conspiracy theory spreads. Well, Liam Riley of CNN, how the heck are they canceling it if it's false? Can someone explain it to me. If it's false, how did it get canceled? Like, I started to make an analogy that's not going to be apropos given recent news events, so I won't go there. But if you tell me the cat isn't real, but also feed the cat, like, I don't know what to do with that. And that's what I've got right here. $8 million in political subscriptions canceled, but it's all a conspiracy.
Well, so yeah, that's a misleading headline that they just had there, because and the reason why it's misleading is because we found out that it's like I think it was $44,000 went from USAID to Politico. It was the rest of the money came from other departments in the government, and so that's why it's a conspiracy theory that it all came from USAID.
You know, it's almost as if you've read this article. You've beat me to the punch there.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, Steve. Yes. Places like the DOJ, places like the Fish and Wildlife, everybody was paying in the government for vast numbers of these ultra premier Politico subscriptions that are tens of thousands of dollars. And it's not just USAID. That's how they're trying to hang the false news on it, the conspiracy. The reality is, yes, the government did pay, and it's over the past 4 years, it's something like 30 million plus to Politico.
Oh,
but
really?
That's not all. Vash, give us the other entities that received a huge amount of money propping them up.
Oh, absolutely. To add a little bit to the Politico point before we talk about some of the other entities, I just want to go ahead and put this on the screen right here. This is what Elon shared with the That's Odd. You can see right there. That's the amount of money that they're getting for what, 37 subscribers for the federal government employees? That's a little strange. You know, the DNC actually just voted on their chair recently, and oh, look at that! What's that back there? So this gets I think really complicated really fast. But Politico wasn't the only one. In fact, the funding of some offshore news sites was the topic as well. Here from the BBC, where our money comes from. You can see right there, USAID. Well, they provide a big chunk. In fact, I believe the largest chunk, second largest chunk actually, on this pie chart right here, delivering what, 261, I don't know if this is in thousands or millions, but you can see right there, it provides a lot of European cash for this news organization right there. Not even local news organization. We also have been hearing a number of reports that media from all over the country has actually been provided these funds, which is very interesting. A lot of nonprofit organizations and so forth, nonprofit organizations. This is really kind of a house of cards that is crumbling very, very quickly. And Politico actually recently couldn't even make payroll, from what I understand, because those funds had been withheld, let's say, by Elon and the Doge team.
So we've also heard that the New York Times apparently had vast subscriptions being purchased by the U.S. federal government. Lauren, I want to go to you first on this one, and here's what people are saying. And you just tell me what you think about it, Lauren. We're hearing that there is great fear in the legacy media that once you take away this money, that the legacy media might actually financially collapse. Like, you could see Politico go down, you could see the New York Times suffer greatly. I know it's the NPR might not make it. PBS might be having a bad case of TDS. Lauren, do you think that the legacy media might hasten its demise because of this, or do you think they'll be just fine?
Well, I think it could certainly hasten the demise, but there's a couple of points that I would make about that. The first is that part of the problem is that once you get used to having the spigot shooting money at you, you start spending that money, you get used to being able to spend that money. So even if you are a legitimate news organization, if you're taking this money and it goes away, it can absolutely destroy you. Now, I think if you're a legitimate news organization, you shouldn't be taking that money. That's the thing. Even if you were reporting the news straight, it's going to cause the appearance of a conflict, and that's something that you're always supposed to avoid as a journalist. The other thing that I would say about it is that if you're not able to survive as a news organization without this influx of cash, then good. You should be able to stand up under your own reporting. If you can't do that without being propped up, then you deserve to die. And if you die, those people that do have journalistic credentials, they can go and start their own organizations. They can secure funding through their own reputations for whatever they're worth at this point, and maybe restart the media, hopefully in a more balanced way. The market will sort that out. If they actually have if they have credibility with their audience, somebody will support them. But the smart money says you probably ought to join the new media and start running your own things, because you can do it very cheaply on YouTube, Rumble, X, any one of those platforms. Anybody can now broadcast and report. And if you're credible, you'll find your audience.
The problem, though, Lauren, is that they're not credible, they are not relatable, and they don't want to engage with an audience because they believe that they are superior to them, because they've been sitting on the teat of government for so long, they don't remember what it's like to work in the private sector. It's like Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters. I don't know if anybody remembers that line, but it's one of my favorite of all time in any movie, anywhere. Now, here's the deal, though, folks, as we're looking at what's happening, what's playing out. Let's just think about how much money and what value the government was giving to Politico, and this is the beginning. Like this news cycle is moving so quickly. Who knows what we'll find out tomorrow? Okay, here's the deal: $8 million a year. I'm just going to tell you, I think that gets at least 70 journalists in your newsroom just on the government giving you the money. And of course, Politico is Google News certified, and they have all the protections of being part of the intelligentsia of the United States, so they get to say whatever they want to say. Meanwhile, the government is giving them the money to say what they want them to say. You see how this turns into a revolving door. And just as was pointed out, yeah, the Democratic Party apparently was from USAID and other sources of the government giving vast sums to Politico. And then Politico, well, they're giving vast sums right back to the DNC by being the official sponsor of. It's amazing how this works. It's amazing the kickbacks. Kevin, I got a feeling that the legacy media is going to go apoplectic about this. What say you?
I'm sure there are a lot of very tight sphincters tonight all over the planet, because the jig is up. This was allegedly cleaned up during the muckraker days. We know that the reality of that was that's when the media became woefully unbalanced, because FDR wanted to get rid of his opponents. And the real question that people should be asking is, how long has this been going on, and how much have we actually spent? As I like to point out, if you were paying attention back in November 2000, you saw the media choose sides for the first time when we couldn't call the election at 2:00 in the morning, and then in November 2004, they declared open war and have been more brazen every 4 years since. So now we know they're getting paid to do it. They're not just being gunga din of their own free will. They're actually being paid to carry the water. And people should get answers. Who signed the checks, and who's been sending them, and how long have they been sending them?
I have a suggestion. Kevin, you remember last week when we did the thing with the Coke can?
Yes.
I think you need to contact Elon, and we find that if there are any government ne'er-do-wells on the payroll, that with their government-sponsored health care, you will be performing the proctology exams this year.
Well, as long as it's not narwhals. We don't want him doing proctology exams on narwhals. I don't even know how that's done. By the way, that's not the word that Lauren said, folks. Go look it up. You're going to find he is a very prestigious fellow with a verbose vocabulary. Mrs. Flew, can I show you what has made me laugh today? Because there's been a part of this that really made me chuckle. Are you ready for it?
I am. Go right ahead. Let's see. What is this? Oh, no.
From John Rich. John Rich, the country singer, says, I barely slept last night.
Big and rich.
I just can't stomach the thought of Iraq. losing their $20 million in funding from USAID for their own version of Sesame Street. It's just so upsetting to me. I may organize a protest. They need Iraqi Elmo. And of course, John Rich has that image that we won't scroll down to go look at, but it's rather humorous. Now, I got to say,
I'm taking that's not a cross in his left hand.
That's right. Of all the things I've seen, this is surprisingly the least offensive because I can actually see some value in kids watching moderated content that teaches them the alphabet and reading and writing, in Iraq. At the same time,
and loving each other
under duress, even.
At the same time, it is $20 million, and I'm not sure it's having much of an effect. Mrs. Flew, could you tell us, please, Mrs. Flew, do you believe there's enough money coming from the U.S. government to actually sustain the legacy media machine, and is it going away now?
Oh, well, there's so many things that I want to say that I'm just going to nip what I don't want to say out loud. But I think there's way too much money that has been going towards things that seriously don't need to be funded any further. And I would not be at all upset if certain media outlets simply dwindled away. And because we take away all of their money, I am perfectly fine with that. There is no reason why we need to be paying or subsidizing things from a taxpayer and a government stance simply because, well, if they were really needed and important and entertaining or lucrative in such a way that the masses kept them alive, they would be alive without government assistance. So I say yank all the money away and let's let everything fall where it may.
I'm going to say up here in Canada, we don't know anything about state-sponsored media.
You know a lot about tariff wars, though, Steve. You guys are really good at tariff wars.
No, but okay, so which is part of this is funny to me because of the fact of how on the nose is up here. And how none of our news organizations would survive, period. Because nobody watches them at all. Because if you remember...
They're Pravda, Steve. They're Pravda.
They are.
It's only about controlling the narrative. That's the only thing it was about.
But if you remember, it's so bad up here that if you because there was that whole debacle with Facebook and the other groups that if you were a news site and social media was sharing you needed to pay, the social media website would have to pay the news sources, the Canadian news sources, in order to promote or even have their articles shared by individuals. And so if you're in Canada, you still can't share news or information because the government is subsidizing that much up here. So
Steve, how many big social media platforms have started in Canada?
Oh, great question. What in the last 30 years has started up in Canada other than sending convoys to your major city? That's honestly that's the problem. There's absolutely no creativity, and anyone that wants to be creative goes down south. And so we're so locked in. Canadians get their media from the Americans, because we hate state-sponsored media, which just adds extra irony to what's going on.
Canadians, when they find the Pro Channel, their minds just explode with joy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because you got representation.
I can't even believe YouTube is allowed in Canada. Hey, Nolan, we haven't got you in though yet. Nolan, I want to go to you and just ask, what do you think about the legacy media having been apparently subsidized and supported by the feds? And it might all be dead. I mean, we call them the dinosaur media, Nolan. Meteor Trump it's landed, and they don't know they're extinct yet.
Yeah, they're definitely about to enter the ice age for the legacy media, because if you just look at the whole broader sphere of it, it just makes sense. Because have you ever met a person in your life, right, left, whatever have you, that genuinely likes the traditional news media? they've completely lost their reputation over the past 20 years of a messenger of truth. They can't get that back anymore at this point. And I don't know about y'all, but I've seen article after article from even outside of CNN. I just see an article and I'm like, how is this thing profitable? You know, like the TVs are expensive, the whole staff, you know, they're probably paid weekly or by the articles, you know, however much their payroll works. I think it makes sense that they were funded at the end of the day. And the reality is that we can't just keep dumping all this money into something that no one actually likes. I know Mrs. Flew was talking about how we're sending it for like education overseas. And I'm not going to take any sides on the matter, but I do know when I'm on an airplane, they say, before you help the other person, you say if you're falling out of the sky or something, you got to get the oxygen mask and put on your vest, make sure you help yourself first. Right now, the state of our country is we are basically drowning. We're not on a boat to rescue someone, and we need to we need to heal as a country and learn to love each other's neighbors again. And these legacy media has been just an obstacle in trying to see truth in the good humanity that's in a lot of individuals out there. So I'm not happy to see a lot of people lose their jobs, but I am glad to see incompetence go away. So I hope that this is the dawn of a lot more independent outlets, or even if they come to corporations, just focus on the truth again, for crying out loud.
See, I, for one, am sad. I'm sad because Politico got $8 million a year, and I didn't even get $1 million. USA didn't come to this channel and say, "Hey, bro, you need a new."
Did we even get $1?
Hey, we've been hosed, guys. You all
Politico coming in with $1,000 super chat. Let's see it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you all could have been living the life of luxury. We've been robbed. I tell you, robbed. Steve, what were you going to say?
I was going to say
we've been stepping all over Canadians this week, and frankly, it's time for it to end. Go ahead, sir.
Nolan was saying the Ice Age theory. I think that the meteor theory is far more apropos.
Really? I would have thought your Canadian self would have loved the Ice Age theory.
I know, but I was just going for apropos. But imagine if you were.
I'm sorry. Did you want to be like Lauren? Did you hear Lauren drop some French and you were like, oh, it's on. I'll show that savoir-faire right now.
Hey, that's
it's
like
on like Donkey
Kong. The first time I think I've ever had to or thought to use that word appropriately. Anyway, but imagine you were that reporter in the room though, because I feel like just you're sitting in there. And there's how many people in that room? I'm going to guess 40, right? And whatever her name is, she comes out and she says that I've just been told that Politico is getting $8 million or whatever, and that money's stopping today. Imagine being her for that few moments, right? Like, what's going through her mind? Like, does she have like, you know, those like tinglies where like, you know, your whole body, like in your body, where you're just like, oh crap. Right. And like the ears are burning, your stomach's churning. You're just like, you start to sweat profusely, but you also know that everybody is like side eyeing you. And like, no one's looking at you directly, but you know, they're using their peripheral vision 100%. Right.
I think you're describing the roller coaster ride known as the descending colon, sir.
What was funny is that she was actually flushed. You could see that she was flushed. And to Kevin's point, I would bet that if any of the reporters had to stand up at that moment, their seats would have come with them.
We've had so many of you join us since we played this in the beginning of the show. Now over 1,000 of you out in the audience across X and YouTube. Let's play it again so you can see what happened when the legacy media found out that the money pipeline was gone.
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on Do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings because of that effort.
So there you go, folks. Trump has aimed the cannon at the biggest, baddest, I guess, pipeline. You know, they don't like pipelines. They're always canceling pipelines. Well, this is a pipeline. He has set his sights on it. Frankly, there's going to be a backlash because this is existential to the far left. Good night, game over, drive home safely. Folks, this video is done. But before we all head home, we only ask one thing. Folks, as you get ready to head on out, consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and share your thoughts, for a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Waste not that beautiful personality of yours. And folks, we would say as you get ready to head out the door, that it has been an honor to spend time with you, an attitude of gratitude each and every time that you elect to join together with us. Breaking bread and breaking entertainment, well, the industry. No, we like entertainment. It's the industry that irks us sometimes. Well, it was a good time. We hope you had a good time. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Jump into the water.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun.
So I give them cannonball. Yeah.
Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.